everybody, it's Lori Rivers with you, and I want to talk to you about resistance patterns and what you can do about them. So, I'm the founder of Align Network International. We're a global community of creative visionaries and passion driven professionals who want more out of life and are damn determined to get it. But we do things in a little different way. Instead of hustling and grinding and pulling ungodly hours, we find a smarter way to build our visions and make things happen. And one of the ways we do that is release resistance. So you hear a lot about that in metaphysical communities and alternative healing communities, resistance patterns. Maybe you're a coach and you've heard about resistance patterns. Identifying them, just like identifying limiting beliefs, is just a step in the process. What we know from what Carl Jung taught, and he was a great psychologist in the mid 20th century, he taught us that what we resist persists. So if you have negative thought habits or limiting beliefs and you're like, oh man, I really need to fix that, I can't think like that anymore, you're just going to keep empowering the belief systems. So through a process at ANI, one of the ways we work with people is to not necessarily identify the limiting beliefs, but just to identify what you do believe. And if that belief works for you, keep it. If that belief doesn't work for you, reassess it. How do you want to believe? There's a huge power in reframing how we feel about ourselves and others. But that's just one step, you see, and you may have heard of reframing. It's a very powerful tool. But if you don't physically connect the dots, you're going to keep in that old habit, no matter how many affirmations you say, no matter how many things you write down, belief statements, and you lie to yourself, basically. If you say, I'm a money magnet, and you don't feel that way, you're just then making yourself feel the lack of things. And the more you focus on what you don't want, the more you get of it. So resistance to success, happiness, joy, resistance to having loving relationships, it shows up in lots and lots of ways. Situations can happen. You can have physical impairments. Maybe you get a sore neck. Maybe you get headaches. Maybe you get cramps in your arms or legs. Maybe you get upset stomachs. Maybe you get panic attacks. Those are all symptoms of resistance. And there's no blame in that. A lot of people use it as a blame game. We don't at Align Network International. I don't, ever. Everybody has it, by the way. There's not a person on earth that doesn't have a form of resistance pattern. It could be that you sleep a lot, right? Hypersomnolence. When you sleep a lot, then you are basically tuning out the world. Maybe you zone out and play a lot of video games instead of taking out the trash or whatever you're doing. When you can identify the resistance pattern, instead of beating yourself up about it, it's important to then decide, what would you rather be doing? If you don't like feeling this way, if you aren't where you want to be, then where do you want to be? And sometimes that's hard to know. If you have a habit of not wanting, if you have a habit of letting other people kind of decide for you, when you've given your power away, when you've just figured you're stuck and you'll always be stuck, it can be difficult to learn what you actually do want. And so most people, when they start wanting things, start jumping to, well, I want $1 million. I want a really cool car. I want a really hot guy or a hot woman. And they're going after what they see on TV. They're going after what they read in magazines or online, instead of actually getting into the heart of themselves and discovering what it is you really want. And that's the process we walk people through, is knowing what you really want. It could be $1 million, nothing wrong with it. It could be $10 million, it could be $1 billion. It could be not just one hot guy, it could be 2 or 3. It could be a whole lot of things. So, but until you learn how to walk that process of self-discovery and gaining clarity and gaining the focus to help make things happen, to learn how to release resistance patterns, and we do these in a couple of ways. Here's a quick one right now that you can just try right now. If you're overthinking, a lot of time you'll be doing this. These lines didn't come from age. That used to be one of my big resistance patterns, was overthinking, and I have the lines on my forehead to prove it. It also comes from bad vision, squinting. But there's a little difference. Those lines are a little different than me thinking I look angry. That's a resistance pattern. Try to figure it all out. When you're in the flow state, you're relaxed, you're soft, you're at ease, you're present, you're in the moment. And it's a far more productive place to be than trying to figure it all out. And you say, well, that's easy for you to say. You figured it out. Yeah, that's why we teach you guys. So I want to invite you to an Aligned Network International meeting. You can come as our guest for free for up to 2 meetings to check out what it's like to walk through these processes where you release resistance so you're not in your own way, so you're not stuck anymore, so that you can actually identify what needs to change, because we say the power's in the noticing, and then take the next steps to building the life and vision that you have and that you want, that you desire, or even figure out what that actually means. So remember, what we resist persists. So if you find yourself tense, open up your body posture, take a deep breath. Do it as many times as you need. There's no instant fix, and there's no magic bullet. If you want this stuff, if you want to have your life be all that it is, there's some work involved, but it doesn't have to be hard. I'm Lori Rivers, and I will see you soon.